everyone. Welcome to the 2020 series presented by the New York Film Academy. The 2020 series are conversations with creative visionaries about craft, creativity, and collaboration. We will do 20 minutes of shop talk with our amazing producer today, and then we will do 20 minutes of answering questions from you, the global audience. So please write in. I am so excited to have with us today Thandiwe Mlauli, who is a producer, a company owner, a business visionary, and also an alum of NYFA LA. Hello, hi.
Hello, hi everybody. Hi Liz.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it is late and cold there, obviously.
It's so cold. Thank you so much for having me.
So I wanted to, what was really interesting, we were just talking about that there, how audiences are changing now. So when before you left to study in the States, were you consuming content from that was made in Africa or content that was made globally or from America?
Definitely globally. Like our local content wasn't like as strong as it is now. So we would like be scouring online. I was in boarding school, so we'd go to the computer room and study go online just to like find different shows, watching ABC and like all types of like just global, definitely.
And do you find now, this is what I want to pick up a conversation we were just starting to have, is that suddenly we're seeing that say Africans or South Africans want to see content made by people they live with or people, people in their country, not just American content, fed to them.
Right, 100%. Yes. Like we love that now that we're having more titles that are produced here in South Africa, we're enjoying them, we support them, we amplify them. Like I think it really excites us when we get to see ourselves on screen with budgets also. Because it's one thing to have like a local telenovela, but it's another thing when you have like a cool stack of money that's going to like making everything look really nice. Excuse me. And we have like really talented crew and like just crew in general, but then also the casting, like the actors here in South Africa, like amazing. So when they get the opportunities that we want them to have, we get excited about it as well.
That's incredible. And so I would love to hear about your career path, because aside from going to NYFA in LA, when you came back to South Africa, did you have a plan before you came back that, oh, I'm going to start a company? Or did you come back and say, I see a hole in the marketplace?
Both. We definitely had a plan, and I have my thesis advisors to thank for that, because in the producing program, my whole thesis is what's the plan? Like, what are you going to do next? How are you going to do it? So whether we had a TV show or a movie that we wanted to do, what was the way that we were going to put it together? So I already knew that I wanted to go into Afro anime. And so they would poke holes in my thesis as well, just to like ask me like, okay, so what are you going to do about this? And how are you going to get that together? So I always knew in my mind that I would have to crowdfund. I knew that I would have to build an audience. I'd basically have to get people to buy into my vision, because it's not seen, it's not popular, it's not really known just yet. So I always knew in my mind that like, if I have to go home at this time, I have to set up all the business, so the taxes and everything are great. And then I just need to like build the connections back in the States as well.
Well, walk me back. Where did this vision come from? Because it sounds like it was so progressive that it must have been hard to even say, like, this is what I'm doing. They're like, what?
Right. So what had happened was, those of us who do watch anime did notice the rise in acquisitions in 2000 and I think 15, 16. Like Attack on Titan had just come out. They were like really cool, popular titles. So I think I already knew that it was going to explode. Like you could feel it coming. Those of us who were in like sort of watching and paying attention. So when I had my thesis, people didn't get it at the time. They were like, okay, yeah, but nobody's watching this type of anime. It's a very niche market. Like, how are you going to make it make sense to like big time investors? And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's coming. We can see it. And then the boom happened and Netflix started like getting all of these titles. Hulu started getting simulcasts. Funimation started getting some of the popular ones too. So I think for me, it was just feeling it, like intuitively knowing that it was coming, and then figuring out like, how is I gonna sort of position myself within that wave.
And what is the position that you started with, and did you have to pivot at all or transform that the more you got into creating the business?
So when I started, I didn't know how scarce the market was. Like, so now, so in terms of like the evolution, it's now when it's like, oh, I'm the first Black woman to do this, and then like in South Africa and direct an animated short. And at the time, I didn't think I was the only one. I thought there were a few. And then when we started doing the research, it was like, oh wait, no, there's a whole gap in the market. So I actually thought I was gonna have more of an infrastructure, and it turns out that I had to like really, really figure out how to create blueprints for people coming in after me as well, in terms of positioning. So I think my positioning evolved and became more specific as we started developing.
And where did you get the we? Where did this? So first it was you, and then and how did you attract the we?
The we actually my classmates. I ended up producing with my classmates from school. So our chief of development is AJ Pitre, and he graduated same time as me, and then my line producer is also from NYFA, and so I think working with my friends, we came from the same school of thought. We kind of understood each other and understood our work that we share throughout the program. And so the vision just made sense. It just came together very, very organically.
And then when you were, so when you started to raise your money, I would love to hear how you went about, because I am about to go on to make a Kickstarter campaign for a project I'm doing, and it seems like an avalanche.
It is. It's daunting. It's daunting because you're like, okay, I'm gonna post this, and then nobody's gonna do anything, and nobody, like, you don't want to like have egg on your face. Right. But I think what we did was I actually consulted with a brand. She does PR and brand specialist stuff here in South Africa. Her name is Sim, and I just asked her like, listen, I want to do a crowdfunding campaign. And then she kind of just asked me questions like, who are you doing it for? And like, just sort of getting clear about the purpose of what it is that we were doing and who we were serving. And we just created with all the media, like shots, character designs, like just a lot of media just to see what would stick essentially. And she just blasted it out, and it happened to catch people's attention. They were like, oh wait, what's happening? But we spent a lot of time strategizing and like figuring out exactly how we're going to position ourselves. Like, okay, look at the market. This is the market, and this is how we fit into it. Mm-hmm. Nothing like us yet. And maybe that might make you nervous, but it should also make you excited because we're innovating. Like we kind of use those type of words where we're trying to push the art forward, the medium forward. And that branding stuck. Like that's what people gravitated towards.
Wow. And can you give me a ballpark of what you raised?
So total, we raised about 100,000 Rand, which is almost $10,000, give or take, depending on where the currency is at the moment. But we raised that, and that was just from crowdfunding. And then we found other funding as well through the government. Like once we got them excited too, like, hey, support us. We got this new thing going on. They didn't really understand it. And even now, just having to sort of be accountable to them, it's very strange having to like explain everything, because it doesn't work in the way you would for a live action film. So, we have to still justify how we use the money or how we but they're still giving us a chance, which is great. So total, I think, including government funding and then crowdfunding, we had about 800,000 Rand, which is about $70-something thousand. Yeah, so it was a good chunk for our first go around.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's a big coup.
Thank you.
What brought you to wanting to tell stories in animation?
I just loved animation from childhood. I used to draw also, like just naturally, and I was just fascinated by animation. But then a friend of mine introduced me to anime specifically in grade 10, and like I didn't understand what I was looking at. I was like, wait, what is the style and why are they so hot? The boys are so hot. in anime. But I just really love how you can suspend your disbelief so much more in animated worlds. You can go into different adventures, and like you can just sort of immerse. I love being able to immerse into a story, and I feel like animation just does that so spectacularly.
100%. So can you tell us a little bit about your Sola project and where that came from and what's going on with that?
Yes, so Sola is actually it's an Afro anime show. It's like in a futuristic South Africa, and it follows this young girl who lives in a world where magic is deadly and dangerous, and she has to fight off these magician hunters as she learns how to develop her magic. So like, think Black Hogwarts in a way, like so it was just like my exploration of magic, and particularly Black magic, and how we want to, like, our instinct is to hide ourselves, to hide our magic, where I feel like our magic is what's going to help us survive, and so these characters sort of learn that, where they're being hunted for it, but if they don't use it, they're going to die. So and I feel like it really reflects us as the people as well, like just how we hide our creative power. We want to dim ourselves because we don't want to stand out too much, because we don't feel safe. But I feel like it's that creative power that's going to help us push our art forward, push our message forward, and just like create better, like we don't want to get stale. I don't want us to get stale as creators around the world.
And where are you at in that project now? What stage?
So we are like, we're now finally animating. So we had character designs, and we were storyboarding and editing. So we've recorded all the like the voice recordings of the film. So now we're like we're in post-production essentially. We're putting it all together. We got a teaser coming out soon. So like, it's coming together finally.
That's so exciting. How long has this project been in motion?
Officially, it's only been, like, in terms of when we started receiving funding, it's been about 12 months. But in terms of development, it's been about 18 to 20 months. So like, we just started it out, me, AJ, and Lebo, just by ourselves. Like, they were helping me, actually. It was my project that I asked them to help me. And then it just started evolving, and it just grew and grew. And finally the money came in. So yeah.
So then do you create it and then try to sell it, or how does that business work after?
So usually you would try to pitch and sell, but I'm also kind of fascinated with ownership and just sort of understanding that particular part of the business. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up in the producing program, because I wanted to be able to advocate for myself. I wanted to really understand, like, what rooms was I walking into, and no matter what disadvantages I would have, I still wanted to, like, be as knowledgeable as possible. So like with Sola, I'm slow to sell. There are other projects where I think I could, if they give me a brief, we develop and we produce. But Sola is such a heartfelt project that for me, it's not something that I'm willing to just sell now. If selling does come down the line, I'd be very happy. But I'm looking for more sort of a partnership with that one. That's really my vision.
That's great. That's great. And what that we've touched on that, what from doing the producing program at NYFA, like, what are 3 big takeaways that you still, like, knock you and upside your head when you're working?
Oh, that's a good question. Number 1 is paperwork. Always have your paperwork. Always have your paperwork. Make people sign documents. Make sure your chain of title is strong. Like, if you have to sell, or someone wants to license your thing, you need to be able to prove that it belongs to you. So make sure everybody's signing work for hires unless they're your partners, you know what I mean? So that would be the first one. The second one is money tells the story. So sometimes when we think of the money aspect, it seems boring, but like, it really does tell the story of how your project comes together. So really pay attention to the money. And don't overextend yourself, because sometimes it is like, when you really want something to happen, you even want to take it out of your pocket and Like, I think when it comes to money, be patient. When money comes in, do what you can and be patient and keep it steady. Don't like make extreme decisions when it comes to that. Let's see. The third thing with producing, I think it's really believe in your own vision. I think that people are now willing to bet on me because I bet on myself. Like when the moment I had the opportunity, I bet on my creations and I was like, I think it's good enough, so let's go. So I think when you come from the producing world, you really want to have that confidence in your own vision, so that when you're giving it to other people, you're telling them something that you already know. Like, you're not trying to get them to believe in something that you're not sure of, you know, like you want to know your thing inside out.
And do you feel like if people asked you, should they go to study or not, what would be your answer to that?
Hell yes. Hell yes. Hell yes. Do it if you have the opportunity. Like I tell people all the time, if you have the opportunity to leave the country, please do, because you grow so much being outside. And like NYFA is crazy because like every time we'd have to produce short films, they would just throw us in the deep end, and then you'd have to like figure it out and then make sure that your project comes together. And you know, it was so stressful back then, but like there's so many things that don't faze me anymore because of like, it was like being hazed.
100%.
So in terms of like just being a competent producer, like yes, go. If I would absolutely 110% recommend you guys go to NYFA. Like every time someone asks me, I'm like, if you have the opportunity, do it, as long as, again, don't strain yourself. Make sure like you're able to support yourself, because LA is a very expensive city. New York is a very expensive city. So you don't want to go there and become vulnerable as an international student. But if you do have the support and you can hustle your way, do it.
That's great. That is so great. We have a couple questions here. I'm going to throw one out to you. So
okay.
I'm going to ask, I'm Erica from the Philippines. The media industry here is currently on the rocks. How did you manage to survive in the midst of the pandemic? What's the industry in animation doing? How will you tell an animation story in the midst of the pandemic?
So how did we manage to survive was the first part. I would say we had to be flexible. That's how we survived. We couldn't because when we first started, it was right before COVID had hit. So we had a whole plan that we thought was going to work in a certain way. And that completely went to shit because the lockdown was so intense the first 3 months. So we couldn't do anything. And then we couldn't even import screens. So we had to I had to buy an iPad, and we had to use a software called AstroPad to connect the MacBook to the iPad so we could use Photoshop, things like that. We had to be very flexible. So I'd say that's the key to surviving in a global pandemic. There's another part of the question. How's the industry doing? I think it's doing well. I think as well as can be. Animation here, people mostly focus on commercials, branding work, illustrations, that kind of a thing. That's sort of where most animators end up going into the industry more so than TV or film. So we're actually still trying to break that ground. So I can't tell you necessarily about that because we don't have a lot of animated productions. We're getting started. And how will you tell an animation story in the midst of a pandemic? That's a good question. My work at the moment doesn't reflect the pandemic in the sense that they're not wearing masks and COVID doesn't show up in my world. I prefer to create worlds where people are immersing into them. So I don't want you to be stressed about COVID and then come and be stressed about COVID in my show.
100%. And also, it seems to me, because COVID is at least in the States right now, knock on wood, it's on the wane in the States. And so you saw in advertising that suddenly everyone's all the advertisers were oh no, they need to wear masks in our Coca-Cola commercial because
right,
that will also date it, eventually that becomes that was made in 2020 because
right. And then can you imagine, think about all of the emotions that we went through in the pandemic. Do you want your project to be associated with that? When people think of despair and disappointment, do you want them to also think of your project amongst, you don't. So don't my personal take is don't do it.
100%. Another question is, in doing animation, what are the usual problems that you encounter and how do you overcome them?
Oh, that's a good question. And I feel like it's different here in South. I feel like I wouldn't have the same challenges in America that I do here. And it sometimes it's really basic things like my South Africans in the house will know we have these rolling blackouts called load shedding. And so whenever they want to, the power company will just switch off the electricity whenever, like they may warn you some days they don't. And so you could go like 2 to 5 hours a day without electricity because they're doing these rolling blackouts. So if that's during a work day and you're connected to a workstation, if you don't have a generator or an uninterrupted power supply, you don't have any productivity that day. Mm-hmm. For us also, internet is a thing. Like we do have fast internet, but it's not affordable. It's really crazy how the internet was way more affordable in America than it was here. And so I found that as a producer, I had to compensate for that with the people I was working with. So we'd have to create little like electricity vouchers and data vouchers to make sure that people are staying online as they're working with us. And then other issues, I would say, sometimes it is money too. I mean, I think as a company, we were lucky this year, but like it can be tough really trying to figure out where you're going to put the money and making sure that you're making the right choices, because you don't want to look back and be like, damn it, like, oh, I missed out on this and I missed out on that. So it's really just paying attention and being intuitive, listen to your intuition, I think is really important as a producer.
Well, it must be also about saving your work, because if you're just having a blackout out of the blue, it must be you guys must be obsessive about saving work to not lose it.
Everyone's always crying. Someone's like, oh no, like my document is gone. Yeah, it's the problem.
That is a challenge. So Kanika asks, in the I'm not, you'll be understanding this question. So in the international market, do we have much scope for graphic designer or animation designer? Do you understand what I'm alluding to?
That, yeah, I think maybe they're saying sort of like, what's the job market if you are in that industry? I think it really depends on you as an artist and your vision for your work. Because one thing I'll tell you is that like you have to be able to sell yourself, whether you're an illustrator, a producer, an animator. In the global market, you want to have something that makes you stand out, and you just want to have a way to insert yourself into the industry that you have to like. It's always great to do market research, so like figure out where we are. Like, okay, maybe there's these many jobs available, or this is how people use that particular job. Like I said, here in South Africa, most animators are doing commercials. Mm-hmm. So if you know that and that's your base and that's who you want to target, then you want to look at the type of commercials that people make, and are they the same like you want to figure out what's actually happening locally and around you, and then see how your skills can fit in there as well.
But at the same time, do you have what I'm impressed with is that you guys raise your money without showing any product. Am I right? You didn't show, this is the level of our animation design. This is the level of like the quality or the, things like that.
Yes.
I guess my question is, how that seems like what they call like a hat trick. How did you do some magic spell? Like
No, so what had happened was I think when we started, we only had like 2 character designs, 2 or 3 of them. And so that's literally what we moved on at first. And I think what helped us was, and this is something I think producers, actors, or wherever you are on the spectrum, work with people. Like your people are your engine. Because what I did, I casted first. So we did like rehearsal. So I casted people that they may not necessarily have been famous, but they have their own core group of audiences as well, right? Like they're visible on social media, but they're very talented with their voice. And so I think that helped because, like I remember I had casted Karabo Sola. She's a DJ, a radio DJ. during the day. She does voiceover work. I casted Misho, who's also like has a podcast, and another guy, Rufumo, who he does stage plays. So when we casted them, their people were excited, and they were like, "Oh, okay." Like, I feel like this project came to life because it was everybody who believed in it. It was like, okay, I'm doing the voices, and then when we started showing people like certain things, that helped. I think the community being a part of the process is sort of how it happened. I think that was the magic, because they started seeing it. So every time we'd have a new character roll out, they'd be like, oh, okay, who's this and who's this? And so our casting, I think we did a really great job with our casting, and the character designs. Our character designer, he's from Nigeria, very, very talented guy, Bolaji. They were the engines of the crowdfunding, for real.
Well, my question is, but were you paying those people? Like, did you pay the voiceover actors? Like, I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
So you guys still had, I guess, seed funding that you started with.
Oh yeah. We just, so basically, that one was just, I guess I can see why you say hat trick in that sense, because it was, I had to convince people like, listen, this is an animated thing. I promise you it's gonna make sense, and like we don't have it. And I think the way I did that was really by leaning into the uniqueness of it all. I was like, it doesn't exist. And everyone's like, well, that's the problem. I'm like, no, that's the solution. It doesn't exist. You'll be the first. So no matter what happens, history will also write you as a supporter of something that hadn't existed before, regardless of what happens. So I think that, again, it's a passion, right? I knew my project inside out. I had developed it for a while before we started the money. So like, I know my story inside out. Like, I spent months and months and months and months like working that out creatively.
I totally think
that's what translates.
Interesting. Daniel asked, do you think the market for animated feature films targeting an exclusively adult audience will grow significantly in the near future?
Targeting just an adult, he said? That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think so. Not a feature, because I feel like features rely on the 4 quadrants. Animated features in particular, like they have to be family friendly. Like, you know, even if it's for an adult, like I need to be able to watch it with my kid, you know, that type of thing. And I hate saying that, because those are the same limits that I didn't want to sort of cloud my vision. But when I look at the market, I don't know, TV shows are a little bit different. I feel like TV is where you can sort of get away with your niche markets and sort of have fresher ideas. But when it comes to features, it's because it's such a gamble. They like 200 million sometimes, like for a feature,
right?
For a feature film budget, animated budget, for an animation. So like, that one's a little tougher, because you have to justify 200 million, and you have to have a way to make it back. And if your audience is so niche, small, I think it's really hard to make that make sense. But I think if it was adult, what is adult? Because sometimes when people say adult, they want violence and language. You can have adult without violence and language, if you ask me. Like, I feel like good storytelling can tell good stories without those things. But it really depends on who you're telling the story for, really, because that's going to determine how much money you get.
Right. And so Sola is a TV series, or is it a?
Yes. So we crowdfunded for a short film, which would then be expanded into a TV show. And it's crazy because we're finishing up the short film, and we just got funding again for now the writer's room and da. So we're kind of like keeping it independent for as long as possible.
That is great. That is great. And there's a lot of different questions here.
Yes.
Luthando asks, I'm Luthando from South Africa. In a country where Afro anime is fairly new and many people have not grasped the concept yet, how have you been able to capture so many people with your solo project that hasn't even come out yet? Yes. And that's what we're talking about a lot with, you know, with your...
Hi, Luthando from South Africa. I think it's really, what we did in particular was tapping into a need. And I knew that need because it was my need. As a Black girl from South Africa who loves animation and anime, I wanted to see Black anime. Every time I see like one Black character, I'm like, oh yeah, hey girl, you know, like I get really excited. And so I was like, I really would love something really cool in that way, that where it's like, it relies on our own mythologies and our own stories, but it's still universal enough that if you're in Japan or in America, you're like, oh yes, I want that. You know what I mean? So I think it was really tapping into a real need. And it was a very authentic need within myself. And I was hoping that other people felt how I did.
And is your work like, so if you're going over lore or myths, is it South Africa based, or does it reach out to other countries in Africa?
It does reach out to other countries in Africa. And also, to be fair, I also acknowledge a lot of the Japanese influence, because anime is from Japan, and I don't think you can separate the two. Some people try to. So we do pay homage to how like the anime itself, but then it's based in South Africa. It has some African lore, and yeah, really cool. Even symbols and stuff that like when people see it, they're gonna be like, oh my god, what the heck? Okay, like people are gonna notice what it is when they see it.
That's awesome. And so this is more of a personal question. Where did you gain your drive to overcome oppositional transitions during this project? And I guess that's even the doubts to travel overseas, maybe starting then to go to school.
Yeah, where did oh, that's a good question. Because everything is scary. Being honest with you, like everything, every step of the way has been terrifying. Even now, like we're going into a new level in our company, and I wake up terrified, like, oh, how am I gonna make this happen?
Right.
I think for me, it was really it's really strange, but it's like a sobering thing for me. Like I look at the mountain. So like if whatever it is that I have to do, I'm like, I need to make an assessment of how big this challenge is. So like, I really ground myself. I'm like, it's not just like, oh, I want 5 million to create a TV show. I'm like, okay, I need 5 million to pay this person and that person and that person. And like, so for me, I connected to who's going to be benefiting from this, and who the engine, again, the people have grounded me significantly. Because like, had I not had people who believed in my project, I probably would have been tired way quicker and just sort of like given up. But then I'm like, if I don't do this, then this person who committed to me is not going to eat. Or if I don't wake up and do this, then this. So it was really a sense of responsibility. It was sobering for me. That's how I navigated challenges. And but even back then, like before the things were coming in, I just didn't want to give up on myself. I think it was really like I tell the story a lot where like right before I left LA, I was getting evicted from my apartment. Mm-hmm. And luckily, I don't know if y'all know this, but in LA, eviction takes long. Like it's not like tomorrow you're out. Like I guess the housing laws are a little bit better for people. But during that time where I knew there was nothing I could do, I would literally wake up every day, have my little $2 coffee at Starbucks, and literally write like every morning. And so crazy, people would come in. Like I met this character designer there who helped me out. I met this director guy who helped me out, like just by being there, just by showing up. So like, I think it's about not giving up on yourself, like making sure that you can look back and be like, did I do everything I could have done? Like, did I really put everything that I could have put into this thing? And you don't want that answer to be no.
That's so
yeah.
That's really awesome. Look at you. So proud of you. Just a question I always ask guests, it's an offshoot question. If you weren't doing this, if you weren't in entertainment, what would you be doing? I don't know what would I be doing if I was not in entertainment. I probably would have done law. Mm-hmm. I probably would have. That was like actually before that it was medicine, but law was the strongest one that for me, like it would have sort of still been aligned with my personality to some degree.
It probably would have been that, or like anthropology, social anthropology, psychology, that type of thing. Like humans fascinate me, society fascinates me. So if I could work in those fields, yeah.
That's so great. And so where can people find you, or if they want to track the project, where can they find you?
So you can follow our company page, Studio Yezi, STUDIOYEZI, Studio Yezi on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow my personal handle, Hey Thandi, on Instagram and Twitter as well. Those are the two channels that you're going to be seeing everything coming from. And then also the website, studioyezi.co.za. We have a little media team, so we've been like ramping, like we're sort of gathering all the content together so we can start exciting people, and as we get closer to dropping the teaser as well. So yeah, that's where you can find me. We'll be posting everything from teasers to job openings and mentorship programs, that type of stuff. That's what we're sort of focusing on this year.
That's amazing. And lastly, Kevin asked from Brooklyn, for those just getting familiar with anime in South Africa, what are some shows or films that they should watch since Stola's not out yet?
Okay, in like animation shows or just South African shows in general?
I think anime.
Anime. Right now, Yasuke just came out. This is not an African, because I don't think there are any African animation shows out. But Yasuke is an American anime that just came out with the Black creator, LaShawn Thomas. Honestly, like I'm watching what everybody else is watching. Like I'm watching Castlevania right now. Seis Manos is also done by Powers Animation. It's like a Mexican anime. Yeah, so I'm watching what's on Netflix at the moment, because that's the one streamer that's really actually trying to acquire more titles. Yeah, but there's literally no African animation at all. Like I can't even tell you one.
That's amazing. It's amazing that it's so wide open.
Hold up. Am I back?
Can you hear
sorry,
me?
Like it looked like it looked like I was lagging for a second.
No, just for a second. But it is amazing that the marketplace is so wide open. So really kudos to you as a great, brilliant producer to like see that and seize the day. You know, not let that bypass you. And you know, we from the NYFA team are super proud and so happy for you. So yeah, so people can reach out, and you know, maybe they can send you a question on IG if they have some.
Yes.
Able to get them. And as you were saying, there are internships that you might be having at your studio.
Yes, so we're going to have some mentorship programs and some internships and actual job openings, both part-time, full-time work, that we're going to be sort of blasting out soon, just for some of the projects that we're starting to pick up on as well.
And is this for an international audience? Because people could do their work in a different country and send it to you.
Absolutely. Like my team now is literally all over the world. Like my chief of development is in Georgia. My character designer is in Nigeria. Like one guy's in LA, another guy's in New York. Like we're all over the place. And what's really dope now, especially now that we've done our first year of business, is that like because you have to like officially, even here in South Africa, like with the tax people and like everybody who sort of like is accounting for the money, they need to know where the money is going and why is it going overseas. Right. So now they're getting used to us working with like overseas accounts, so they understand the trade. Right. So it's definitely going to be open to the world, really. Like it's not going to be limited to South Africa alone.
Okay, wonderful. And just tell us the name of your the website. So
it's www.studioyezi.co.za, and you can find us on Instagram, Studio Yezi, Twitter, Studio Yezi, and then Hey Thandi if you want to find me personally to like drop me a question or a comment.
Wonderful. And Charlie put it in the chat. Well, it was so amazing like speaking with you, and I'm so happy that we had this time together. And thank you so much for, you know, staying up late.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It's really
And thank you everybody at NYFA as well. Like, you guys poured so much into me, and I'm so, so grateful that I had the opportunity to attend that school for real.
Awesome. And thank you, New York Film Academy, for presenting the 2020 series and backing it. And have a great, awesome In America holiday weekend. And see you guys later. Bye.